Welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain. I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and today our lovely guest is Destiny Drake. Destiny is the author of Fragments of My Reflection. So, Destiny, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
And with that being said, so Prevailing Through Pain, as you know, it's where we're talking about our humble beginnings. So I'm going to ask you if you could take us back to your humble beginning. Welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain. I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and today I love you going too far for me. I want to know the little girl Destiny.
The little girl Destiny. Okay, the little girl Destiny grew up fast. So even though I was young, it was like I had to be always responsible. I was always the one that everybody wanted the positive from, the good from. My little brother, he was bad. And my mom, she was in and out because she was on drugs. So we lived with my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my aunt. We kind of went all over, like, different homes.
And you grew up where?
Decatur, Illinois.
Decatur, Illinois.
It's by Chicago. Nobody knows where it's at.
I went to Decatur. I had a girlfriend in Springfield, so.
It's close, about 30 minutes out. So, yeah. And I grew up mainly with learning things from my grandmother. She was older. She cooked, cleaned. She did everything for me. So once I got older, it was kind of a culture shock that I had to do it for myself. But I was mainly raised by her. And with her being older, she really couldn't be as hands-on or teach me all the things that I needed to know because she was more of like a housewife in a sense. So she cooked, she cleaned. When you woke up to the smell of breakfast. When I got home from school, dinner was on the table. I never worried about what I was going to put on because my clothes was ironed and ready for me. I didn't clean because the house is always clean. At grandma's house, so I loved being at grandma's house. So I mainly stayed with grandma.
Okay. So, and you said in high school, you were telling us about your high school journey.
Yeah, so in high school is when my mom got real bad with the drugs and she was sent to prison. So it was starting off my freshman year. I could say, I guess it took a bad toll on my stepfather because he stopped being around. He made sure the bills were paid, but he was never visibly present. So it was like I was taking care of my brother and I knew that every month the rent would be paid, the power bill would be paid, and he left money for like us to eat. So that's how I learned how to budget because I had to make sure whatever he gave me, I budget till the next time that he provided for us.
So even though you were staying in the house with your stepfather, you were pretty much, it was you and your brother, it sounded like?
Yes, I don't know where he was. I'm sure he was working, but he was never there. So I would get home and every now and again there'd be an envelope on the desk and I knew it was money for me to make sure me and my brother were good. I started, I became pregnant at the end of my freshman year going into my senior year. Going into my sophomore year of high school. And I hid it. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. It was already, basically, I was alone with just me and my brother. I didn't want us to be separated. So I hid the pregnancy for about a good 8 months.
I'm sure, because you said freshman, so junior high to high, in between there. But, okay.
So I hid the pregnancy. I didn't tell anybody besides my boyfriend and my cousin. We were the only ones that knew. And of course, we were all the same age. My cousin was actually younger than me. So she had to keep that deep secret as well, being younger. And my mom eventually got out before I had my baby. And it was my grandma who thought that I was pregnant because I had to help her change a light. And I had to lift my hands up a little bit. So she seen my stomach and I was real, real skinny, like 100 pounds soaking wet. So she was like, my grandma called me Miss Ann. She was like, something wrong with Miss Ann. You need to get Miss Ann checked out. And I hid it even when the doctors came in and did everything, the ultrasound. And
No, you wasn't trying to fool the doctors.
Yes, I was. I was like, I told them, no, I've never had sex. I don't know why I'm here. Even though I knew it, I had been feeling movements so by then, once the doctor came back, they had did the actual pregnancy test first. And they're like, you are pregnant. They bring the ultrasound in, lift my stomach up, and the doctor you're pregnant.
But yeah, you really pregnant.
Then they seen it like, no, you 8 months pregnant, you're about to have a baby. And I'm like, oh.
And you said you were when you and I talked once, you were telling me you was a cheerleader. You was still.
Yes, I still cheerleader and I was a flyer. So I was the one that was throwing in the air. And they would start complaining, like, you're starting to gain weight. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And, I would try to work out and run. But they were still throwing me in the air, doing everything because I was going to hold that secret. Like I would have probably went in labor and still held the secret because I was so scared and I was scared I had disappointed everybody. And I didn't want me and my brother to be separated. And then now I had this bigger responsibility of a whole brand new child that I'm bringing into this world. So it was for like about a month until I had the baby. That's when everybody found out. And
Not even enough time to gossip about it. You had the baby. She's pregnant. Boom, she got a baby.
if it wasn't that much gossip about it besides, oh, she's pregnant, and everybody thinking, okay, like she's newly pregnant. But then it was like, okay, why is she out of school? Because she had the baby. So that was kind of a big transition for me. And
Yeah, that's a big transition.
And my mom ended up going back to prison like right after I had my baby. So I learned at the hospital that with me having a baby, I have to sign all type of documents. So I legally became emancipated. So I was emancipated. I decided to stay in Illinois because I felt so bad and I didn't want to put the burden on anyone else. So, and I was more so, I could say, punishing myself. I wanted to punish myself because I knew that I had done wrong and I didn't want to go with my aunt because she had a good job. I knew she would make it like a family secret type of thing. Like it would be her baby and then I would be able to go to school. And even though now that I look back on it, maybe I should have done that. But I was like, it's my responsibility. I'll figure it out. So that's what I tried to do at 16 years old, figure it out. I moved in with my boyfriend at the time's family, and then we eventually moved into the house that his parents owned. So two 16-year-olds in their own 2-bedroom home.
Wow. With a baby.
With the baby. And trying to manage going to school. He became abusive mentally, physically, emotionally, socially at school. I couldn't talk to him. He had what I call, quote unquote, a school girlfriend. And from there, that's where like the drama and the self-hate, because I literally hated myself. Like I looked in the mirror, I didn't know who I was. I was dealing, like I had the people around me, but now that I look back, like they were just teaching me what they knew. And it was always just hit them back, fight back. It was never leave or go. And it got to the point in my mind, I felt like I had nowhere to go. When I know I did, because I could have still always went to my aunt and she would have still took me in, but I just dealt with it.
So do you think like part of it was because you thought you loved him so much that you didn't want to leave? You hoped he'd change? And I asked this because there's some young girl that is going through this now. And I think one part you mentioned ashamed. You thought, you felt ashamed and punishing yourself. And so the abuse, was it verbally and physically?
Yes. And it was the taunts of him always telling me I didn't have nobody. All I had was him. Nobody loved me but him. And I didn't have a dad around or no one to tell, show me that love. So for me, that was love because at a time when I started freshman year, my mom wasn't there. He was there and he knew my stepdad wasn't there. So he would come in, check on us. So at the same time, it was like my knight in shining armor became the devil to me. And I was like, well, maybe this is what love is. I didn't know. So, and I loved him like couldn't nobody tell me, even though I seen the wrong he did. Like there's instances where I came home and it was other females in my bed with him. I still shrugged it off like
Like he's my man. Yeah.
it's my fault. I must have done something wrong. I still tried to fight for it just for over 10 years.
And even the where you said you couldn't speak to him in school, that was his rule. You don't get to talk to me in school.
Yeah, because he had a school girlfriend. So he was still trying, I don't know if he was trying to live best of both worlds. Because it was like, I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't have a boyfriend. It was like, he was my boyfriend, but he also had other girlfriends. And he had a school girlfriend. And it was like, if I even looked at her wrong, there would be an issue. I would get in trouble for it. If we argued, I had to deal with that argument at home. She eventually came to my house to fight me. When I say I fought so many people, and it wasn't for nothing that I did wrong. It was just because of him and being young. And
And you said he was an athlete.
yeah, and thinking if I'm fighting for his love. So I continued to fight until I got tired, till I decided enough was enough.
You just woke up one day. What do you remember being? What do you think the straw is they say that broke the camel's back?
It was actually his little sister. We were going on a family trip, and I think we were going to like Indianapolis or somewhere. She called me and she asked, like, you promise you won't tell my brother? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? She was like, why are you going on the trip when he's bringing another girl? And I was like, he's bringing another girl. She was like, yeah, I heard them talking and he's bringing another girl on the trip as well. But I'm like, well, why would he do that? And we're together. And then I was like, you know what? It's enough. Like, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. Like, this is enough. Like, how long, Destiny, are you going to continue to let this man do this? Your friends, and they kind of like bagged back because they were seeing how it was affecting me, and we were young. They didn't know how to handle it. So they're like, it's like, you're all alone by yourself. Figure it out. Like, you can do better. And I just had to continue to tell myself every day waking up. And it was hard because I would cry because I wanted to go back, or he was trying to do things to get me to come back. And I'm like, no, I cannot. Like, I have to want better for myself. By this time I had a daughter, and I'm like, I can't continue to let her see a man hit me, a man talk to me wrong, because then she's going to think that that's okay. And it's not. So it was his sister and me having a newborn daughter as well.
Well, it takes a brave soul, because it doesn't matter how long we're in a situation. It's that we can remove ourselves from a situation. I can't tell you how many situations I found myself in. I think my ex-husband, he was so verbally abusive, not really physically abusive, but he came in the house one day and he told me he was going to whoop and I kind of thought he would. And I remember waiting till he fell asleep, and I tied him to the bed. And I was living in Mississippi, and I was working in Louisiana, so right there on the borderline. I tied him his ankles down by the ankle and across his chest, right? And then I woke him up. Clogs were the thing back then that men even wore clogs. And I remember picking up his shoe. And I said, you going to do what to what? And it took me about 3 hours to tie him up because he kept moving, but he was drunk. So I was able to tie him up good. And I literally left him there for the weekend. He worked himself out of it. But, that was my turning point, because I said when I came home that night after work, because I called one of my girlfriends that I worked with, and she said I could stay with her and we were the same size. So I wore her clothes to work. And when I came home that evening, the light was on, and I was like, oh, he got himself a loose, because I was like, at that point, I didn't care if he was dead in that bed. But when the light was on, I said either the police came and helped him, he's dead in there, something. But anyway, he was frying fish, right? And so I was like that hot grease, and I was leaning up against the door, and I remember keeping my hand on the doorknob. So he said, you going to come in and eat? And I was like, so it's, people say, you crazy. He would say, you mad. So I was like, that grease is still, I'm thinking, hot. And he said, you going to come in here and eat? No, and stand up against that door. But I thought for me to have that much fear in me, that I said, one of us is going to kill the other one. So that was my turning point, that I left and went back home to mama and started over from there. And I was a whole lot older than you. So,
Wow.
So we're going to take a sponsor break and we'll be right back.
Do you have a powerful story of perseverance? Have you triumphed over pain and want to share your story with the world? We're looking for inspiring guests to join us on the Prevailing Through Pain podcast. Head over to KarenSherry.me/guest. Fill out the form and let us know your story. Your voice could be the one to inspire others. Your experience can be the one to lift up someone else. Go to KarenSherry.me/guest.
All right, and we're back. So you got the courage to leave. So where were you staying when you left?
So I had my own apartment, so I stayed there a little while longer. And then eventually me and my friends, we took a trip here to Texas. And when we got here, we drove, and it's about a 12-hour drive. it was like so big, so beautiful. And I'm like, I love it here. As soon as I got here, we hadn't even done anything yet. Like I wanted to do everything. I wanted to explore everything. It was like so beautiful. And I'm like, I want to live here. It just was something that kept tugging on me. Like, this is where you're going to be. This is going to be home. And I kept telling my friends, like, y'all, I'm moving here. Like, just give me a year. I'm moving here. And they're like, you're not going to move. You're not leaving. Nobody really ever leaves from our little small town. So I'm like, okay. So when I got back home, I started researching and I seen that if you're on Section 8, you can transfer it anywhere in the U.S. So, but you got to be on there for a year. So I applied and I was approved. I stayed on it for the year. When my year was up, I transferred everything here to Texas and I packed what could fit in my car, which was some clothes of me and my kids, a TV, and we drove off. We shot right here, but we made a stop in my aunt's. And I hung over there for a little while.
Is this the aunt that wanted you to live with her?
Yes. So I stopped over there before I left Illinois. I had an encounter with that old boyfriend because of some DNA test stuff where we found out that my oldest son was not his son. And when he found out that I was leaving, he showed up to my house with a gun, threatening to kill me and my son. And that was hard and traumatic, but I had a guy friend over there and my best friend over there at the time that night, thank God. So they were able.
So had he not moved on with his life?
I would have thought he did because he was married. And he had got married like a couple of weeks prior to this.
So you saying?
Yes. So I would have thought, that I was a thing in the past, but I wasn't. I guess he had got drunk. Because you could tell that he was drunk and he kept saying how he loved us and he wasn't going to let us leave him.
So he was just going to kill you?
Yeah. And he had a gun and he was going to kill us. So like everybody out there was trying to, deflect the situation. His friends were with him and they were trying to get him to, leave as well. They just had told me to go back in the house, lock the doors, don't come back out. And my best friend and my guy friend that was there, they kind of got the situation diffused. His friends got him to leave. And then I was like, it's time to go. We have to get out of here. I've had enough.
You said what? So you came on to I was going to say Oklahoma, I'm sorry, to Texas.
Yeah, to Texas.
So tell us about your trying to get readjusted in life and in a new place.
We moved here. We moved to an area that I now know is Pleasant Grove. And my kids went to school here. My son was like in 6th grade and my daughter was like in 2nd grade. So we lived out in Pleasant Grove in some apartments called the Rosemonts for a year. And then we moved to Richardson. While at the Rosemonts, I learned that it was a funeral school that was like down the street from the apartments. I had always been interested in funeral business, but I was like on that. I didn't want people to think I was weird. Like, who does that? Like, who wants to work with dead people? But I decided to do it. So I went to school. While in school, you have to do cases. You do your embalming cases. You got to choose a funeral home. You go to talk to funeral homes. So I chose Golden Gate Funeral Home. That's one of the known Black funeral homes here in Texas. So I wanted to go there to learn. They had the TV show previously. So I'm like, that's cool.
Really?
Okay. So I went there, and that's where I met John Beckwith, and his assistant at the time was Miss Chandrea, who eventually Miss Chandrea is now my mother-in-law, and they became my mentors. They taught me how to dress, how to act, how to walk, how to talk, how to be a better me. He always would say, better people make better everything. And like, I still had this hood mentality that I still was fighting and I still was trying to survive. So like, I was always fighting with everybody in here. Like, I was like his problem child, he would say. And he would always make me get up in front of everybody and apologize. Cause he said, where you show your butt at, you're gonna apologize at. So I learned a lot from them, like everything. Like, I owe it to them for who I am today.
Yeah, respect. So in embalming school, so is that what you do? Is that what you do now?
Now I'm at Dallas County. I'm an administrative analyst, so I interview defendants that are out on bond or still in custody to see if they qualify for a court-appointed attorney. But I still do dibble and dabble with the funeral business. I'll never let it go. I'm always gonna be the Lady Undertaker, and I'm always gonna be Team Golden Gate.
I was gonna say the lady undertaker. Most people, they like the thought of going to funerals is seeing someone that's dead. It bothers them. And then how did you deal with that? How do you deal with that? It's a job.
No, not even that. So what made me like funeral business was when my grandmother passed away, and I had to do the arrangements for her. And while I was in there, like, I was so lost because I'm like, what's next for me? Like, all I knew in Illinois was my grandma, and that's the reason why I never really wanted to leave, because my grandma was there. And I had asked the lady, like, can I do my own grandma makeup? Because, I would always, be the one doing her makeup, painting her nails, helping her. And she was like, yeah, if you want to. And then my Uncle Bobby was like, do you know what you just asked to do? And I was like, what? He was like, you said you was going to do your grandma. I said, no, I didn't. I'm not going in there with her. He said, no, you told her you would do that. And I was like, I did? He was like, yes. I was like, okay, I have to do it then since I told her. So when I was able to go in the room and get my grandmother dressed, do her hair, do her makeup, paint her nails for her service, I'm like, if I can handle doing it for the one person that I care for, like she was my everything, I can do it for other families. So that's how I look at it. Every time I'm doing someone, it's like I'm doing my grandmother. So I'm going to do it with the utmost respect, because it's like my grandmother, my aunt, my sister, my brother.
So what's next?
I want to get into public speaking and doing programs for young ladies, teenagers, even older adults. I always thought my ministry was with the women, but when my book came out, I've noticed that it's been teenage boys, and I've been fighting with that. And me and God, God know I'm hard headed with what He telling me to do, and I'm like, God, are you sure? And I've since my book, I've had multiple parents with teenage boys, because they see the stuff that I went through in my book with my son. Like, can you talk to my son? And these teenage boys, they really open up to me, and they come to me when they're going through things, when they're doing wrong, and asking me for help. And I'm like, Lord, I didn't know, my ministry was young boys. So I'm also looking into that now, because God keep tugging at me, and you can only be hard-headed for so long. So
Can you tell us where your son is today? What your son is?
yes. So my son is incarcerated. He's incarcerated in Illinois, because that's where he got in trouble. He's at a juvenile facility in Harrisburg, Illinois. For a long time, it was hard for me to talk about this. Like, literally, I would cry. I would get, it was hard. He was the most joyous person. He's supposed to have scholarships. He had scholarships for football, for basketball. And because of the mistakes I made growing up, and me not knowing the therapy that he needed and myself, he went a different path, and I had blamed myself. And now we're both on a journey of trying to get back on the path wherever God is taking us. So we're making the best of where he is.
And I think that's amazing that people come to you about your son and want you to talk to their young men. So can you tell our viewers where they can find your book?
Yes, so it's on my website, which is becomingwholeco.square.site. And you can go on there. You can also go to my social media. Every social media is destiny.drake. I'm sorry. I got to get used to that new last name, even though it's been almost 4 years. So it's destiny.drake on all social media platforms. And you can reach out to me on those platforms as well on my website.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. And I'm excited about your journey.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Cherry Brown. And if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.